Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. As you can see by the shared screen, we have a wonderful presentation by one of our regional advisors, Roxy, on non-consensual pornography. So I just wanted to, from the top, introduce Roxy, but also say that the chat is open. So feel free to drop your name, your pronouns if you're comfortable, where you're joining us from, and continue to put questions in throughout the presentation and the chat. You are more than welcome to send them directly to me or just generally in the chat, and we'll get to them if we can. Roxy is a master's candidate in the Leadership and Student Affairs program at the University of St. Thomas in Minneapolis, Minnesota. In addition to her studies, she serves as obviously the It's on Us regional advisor for campus chapters in Region 4, which is our Midwest region. Roxy's passion for sexual violence prevention stems from her experience as an orientation leader during undergrad, and since then she's continued her commitment to prevention work by facilitating consent programming for college students and creating new awareness workshops and materials like the prevention of non-consensual pornography. Roxy will be graduating this May and hopes to find a job at a college or university working to implement trauma-informed Title IX procedures and survivor advocacy resources. So just a quick trigger warning, as I always do at the top of a call. We will be discussing sexual violence, specifically sexual violence in the form of non-consensual pornography today. So feel free to leave, take a break. We can absolutely let you back in. It's up to you to keep your camera on or off. However, we do ask that you stay on mute. And this call will be recorded, so it's being recorded as we speak. I'm going to quickly paste some resources in the chat for everyone. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed or struggling, these are some great resources to access. So without further ado, I'm gonna pass it over to Roxy and we'll get started.
Awesome, thank you so much, Maeve, and welcome everybody. Today, we will be using an interactive software called Menti for this presentation. So Maeve is actually going to post in the chat function how you can access this presentation and the interactive component. So you will go to menti.com and enter the code 64101117. And again, Maeve just posted that in the chat. So go to menti.com and join us. So I just want to welcome everyone and thank you so much for tuning in today to this session about the prevention of non-consensual pornography. This session is part of It's on Us Spring Week of Action 2021, and we encourage you to check out and attend our other events happening later today and tomorrow also. Like Maeve mentioned, my name is Roxy Krietzman, and I am a regional advisor for Region 4, the Midwest here at It's on Us, and I'm super excited to be here. As we go through the presentation, feel free to use that chat function to ask questions. Maeve will be monitoring the chat and we'll answer questions as we go at the end of the presentation. So please take a moment to log on to Menti and log on to with our code, which is 64101117. And we'll get started with our first slide here, which is just another reminder of our content warning. We won't be talking about explicit instances of non-consensual pornography today, but that being said, please take care of yourself, listen to your body, and take care of your well-being. So that's our content warning I just wanted to preface this with. And we'll start out with our first interactive question. Where is everyone calling in from today? So feel free to, on your device where you're interacting with Menti, put in where you are calling in from today. I personally am calling in from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I would love to say that it's a beautiful day here, but it has been raining all week and it will continue raining tomorrow. So it's such a bummer, but I'm calling in from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Looks like we have folks from all over the country and that's so awesome. And I'm so excited to engage with you all today about non-consensual pornography and how we can prevent that on our campuses. So thank you so much for interacting here. And we'll head on to our second interactive question. This is a multiple choice question. I would like to gauge how much you know about non-consensual pornography right now. I've never heard of it. I've heard of it, but I can't describe it. I know what it is and can describe it. I know a lot about it and I'm here to learn more. So looks like so far we have quite a few folks across the board, folks who are experts, folks who have never heard of it. So this is very exciting. And I hope we're able to kind of hit all those interest points. And so you can walk away from this presentation with some information to take back to communities of your own. So thank you so much for participating in these interactive questions. We'll have one more towards the end, so stay tuned for that, but we'll jump right into our presentation here. So we'll start with an overview of kind of what the next 10 to 15 minute presentation will look like. We'll start with an introduction to non-consensual pornography and talk about what it is and what it looks like. And second, we'll talk about shifting the paradigm and how we can work together to actively prevent non-consensual pornography on our campuses. The third thing we'll touch on is how we can provide comprehensive survivor resources and support. And then finally, we will talk about reporting options for survivors and end with getting involved in the movement and how you can spread awareness to end non-consensual pornography. Awesome. So what is non-consensual pornography? You might have also heard it be referred to as revenge porn or digital domestic violence. All three of these terms kind of work interchangeably, and for the most part, they mean the same things. So non-consensual pornography is the distribution of intimate photos or videos without explicit consent of the parties pictured. So this could be nude or altered photos of videos. And for survivors of non-consensual pornography, the spreading of these images or videos can lead to loss of jobs, education prospects, relationships, reputations, etc. So it's incredibly harmful when these nude or altered photos or videos are spread without those folks' consent. And I just want to preface this with nobody ever has the right to share content without permission, without consent, no matter if the intent isn't even to harm. So I just want to preface this whole presentation with that. So let's look at some statistics of what kind of issue we're dealing with here. So there's a lot we don't know about research with non-consensual pornography and how it affects folks and how it impacts them, because the internet is a giant and vast place, and what's on it is the same way. It's giant and vast. So as far as we know right now in the research, about 1 in 25 women will be survivors of non-consensual pornography in their lifetime. And then 17% of LGBTQIA folks will experience non-consensual pornography as well, as compared to 2% of straight folks. And we've seen non-consensual pornography become more visible in the media. Folks like Jennifer Lawrence and Kate Upton have come forward as survivors to share their experiences, as well as Katie Hill, who's a former US representative from California, has come forward to share her experiences. And these statistics are just a small snapshot of the issue at hand. So according to the Data and Society Research Institute, 10 million internet users have been affected by non-consensual pornography, which is a huge number. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here. So how do we take all that information? How do we begin to move in shifting the paradigm and creating awareness about non-consensual pornography? So the statistics show, like we saw, it's a huge problem. So what can we do to help shift the paradigm and to support cyber civil rights in the United States? We first need to commit to protecting people's safety on the web, and we can do that through comprehensive federal legislation. So current cyber civil rights laws that non-consensual pornography would fall under are weak. There's little accountability for online companies and parties. 41 states currently have criminalized non-consensual pornography. However, the level of punishment varies depending on the state. So for example, in Minnesota, where I am, it could be considered a felony, but in Connecticut, for the same spreading of content, it's considered just a misdemeanor. So we need consistent federal legislation across the board to make sure we are holding perpetrators accountable. And then third, we want to, in our own lives, practice enthusiastic consent, especially when we are thinking about sending or receiving nude photos or videos. So although it doesn't prevent someone from ever sharing non-consensual pornography of you, establishing those expectations and boundaries with partners is a great way to build that trust and to work against that culture that permisses non-consensual pornography. And a little bit later in the presentation, I will talk about an app that you can use to help you with setting those expectations with your partners. And then finally, we want to restore dignity to survivors of non-consensual pornography by providing comprehensive support and resources. So here are 6 ways that you can help support survivors. 1, we want to listen. This is true for all instances of supporting survivors of sexual violence. Want to avoid judgment. We also want to know ourselves what the available resources and reporting options are so we can let other folks know that as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. We also want to remind survivors of 2 things. It's not their fault and they did nothing to deserve this, and that they are alone and there are options. And then finally, you just want to check in and follow up and make sure they're getting the support that they need. So let's talk about reporting non-consensual pornography. Whether you have experienced it or you'd like to point someone you know who's experienced it to reporting options, here's some great ways to do that. So websites that non-consensual pornography often end up on are Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and Pornhub. So these websites actually have forms that you can fill out to take down non-consensual pornography content. So typically, if you just Google one of these websites plus taking down content, it will lead you to the form that will help you get that content removed. That is not to say it won't ever be posted again on that site or on a different site, but it is a great way to start that process. Second thing you can do, there's a great organization called the Cyber Civil Rights Initiative. They have a crisis helpline. They can allow access for survivors to attorneys. They also, on the website, have a breakdown of laws by state, and then they also have international resources. So this is great for folks who are studying abroad, and if they may have run into a situation, they also have those international resources for folks. So you can visit their website at cybercivilrights.org, and they have very comprehensive resources for survivors on the website. And then the last way you can report is to your college or university. They might have policies, procedures, and further resources that can support and protect non-consensual pornography survivors. And if you look into it and your institution or campus doesn't necessarily have these policies and procedures in place, this could be a great organizing cause on your campus. You're already doing great. It's on us sexual violence prevention organizing, and it would be great to add non-consensual pornography as a platform and as a educational tool to continue this movement and to continue sexual violence prevention on your campuses. So like I mentioned earlier, practicing enthusiastic consent with your partners is extremely important for cultivating a healthy and safe campus environment for everyone. So you can practice consent with Eagree. And so Eagree is an app. I have recently downloaded it and started using it with a partner of mine. And so it's an app that allows you to draft affordable and personalized written agreements, so contracts. And you can use Eagree's services to make arrangements between you and your partners for sending and receiving intimate images or videos. So you both sign an agreement, you send it to one another, and therefore it's in your back pocket if something were to happen. So that means if you sign the contract and then they leak your nudes or sex you could take them to court and use this Eagree contract to help your case against them. And so this is just one way where we can start to shift the paradigm, and having those safe interactions with each other and making sure we're holding each other accountable in those. So that app is called Eagree. And like I said, I've recently used it and I've heard about it on a number of podcasts. So I encourage you to check it out as well. And then finally, I want to offer ways for us to get involved, to release the shame and end the silence. So these are 3 main ways that you can get involved in the movement to ending non-consensual pornography, especially in higher education. So 50 Shades of Silence is my first recommendation. It's a global movement that gives voice and dignity to survivors of cyber harassment and online crimes. The next is called March Against Revenge Porn. And this is an organization dedicated to combating tech-based sexual violence through legislative action, trauma-informed programming, victim support services, national protest marches, universal storytelling, and a legal defense fund. And the creator of this organization is also really cool and has a great TED Talk as well. And then the last I've already touched on, which is campus organizing. You have the power to educate others on your campus about non-consensual pornography and promote enthusiastic consent. So petition your administration to get serious about non-consensual pornography and support survivors and recognize it as a form of sexual violence. So at this point, we are going to move into our last interactive question. So for folks who are just joining us, we are using what's called Menti, which is menti.com. So if you go to there and enter the code 6410117, Maeve will post it in the chat again, and answer this question. What is one way that you can commit to preventing non-consensual pornography on your campus this year? So we have some answers coming in. Spread awareness of Eagree. I love that. It's an awesome app, not just for sexting and sending nudes, but for all different kinds of agreements. You can check them out. It's really affordable. My first contract is free, so check it out. Adding civilrights.org to our Title IX research page. It's an awesome way to do it. Recommending Eagree, sharing Eagree. I promise they are not paying me to advertise Eagree on this call. I just think it's a very cool and innovative app. Promote enthusiastic consent. That's awesome. Educational programming. That's a huge, huge part of spreading awareness and the mission of It's On Us on campuses. So these are all awesome answers. Thank you so much for sharing. At this point, I do want to open it up to questions. So, Maeve, have you received any, or folks who are in this call, feel free to post them in the chat and I will answer them.
Yes, so Monica asked, what is the benefit of an app like Eagree over agreements made via text or email?
Awesome, thanks, Maeve. So with Eagree, you are going to have the backing of legal counsel. So if you sign an agreement through the Eagree app, they are backing that contract. So therefore, it will hold up in a court case as evidence of a pre-existing contract between 2 or more parties. So you are able to kind of have that legal backing and legal representation if something were to happen. That's a great question. I mean, any documentation of an agreement is better than no documentation, but this, in this case, Eagree is a platform for making sure that things are legally sound. Great question.
And then a follow-up to that from Kate, does Eagree acknowledge that someone can decide to revoke consent at any time?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'm not exactly sure. I think at any time you can terminate the contract. That's definitely something that can be worked on, as we look towards more comprehensive legislation. Revoking consent at any time has become a more common part of consent definitions both on college campuses and as far as legislation goes. So as we move toward kind of this more comprehensive legislation, hopefully that will be recognized as a part of it. Great question. Awesome. Any final questions before we round out our presentation here?
Yes, one more. What do you recommend for folks who are dealing with a stranger versus, I think, a partner or someone you're closer with?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So as we know, with both perpetrators of sexual violence and also perpetrators of non-consensual pornography, research shows that the majority of those perpetrators are someone that the survivor knows. So typically the person will know that person. But in the case when someone doesn't have kind of a pre-existing relationship with them or is a stranger, that's where those kind of reporting modes through very specific websites can come in handy. So for example, websites like Snapchat, Pornhub, Reddit have those avenues for folks to let them know about violations of privacy. So that is the best mode for that. I would also recommend contacting the Cyber Civil Rights Initiative, because that is kind of their focus area, like broad issues of non-consensual pornography. How do we deal with those? So those would be my 2 recommendations for that. These are awesome questions.
Yeah, and I just pasted the link in the chat to the Cyber Civil Rights Initiative. It is a great website with a lot of resources and ways that you can get involved.
Perfect. Thank you, Maeve. Maeve also has other links to resources that she's going to paste in the chat. So one of them is, of course, that Cyber Civil Rights website. We also have links to the 50 Shades of Silence movement website, the March Against Revenge Porn, a great TED Talk that I would encourage you all to check out, as well as a link to where you can download the Eagree app.
RAINN actually had one more question, and this is a great question. Is there anything someone can do if they know someone has non-consensual images of them, but the images haven't been posted to a website or shared to others yet?
Wow, that is an awesome question, and I don't exactly have the answer for that. My recommendation would be to reach out to Cyber Civil Rights Initiative and see what their recommendation is for that. Like I said at the beginning, kind of the research and the policies and procedures surrounding non-consensual pornography are so new, and we're trying to work out what cyber civil rights and safety looks like. So if you're not comfortable reaching out to this person who has the images directly, I would encourage you to reach out to the Cyber Civil Rights Initiative, and they might have a better idea of what legal action can be taken on your part to make sure those images or videos aren't released on any sites or spread to others without your consent. That's a great question.
Yeah, that was a really good question and something I had not thought of, but yeah, so I just want to wrap up, give everyone a few extra minutes. If you do have a question, feel free to send it in the chat right now. Just wanted to do some follow-ups with letting you know that this has been recorded, so it'll be posted on our YouTube channel next week. We'll have all those links to the resources in the description box as well, so you'll be able to access those. Yeah, just wanted to keep everyone in the loop. We do still have several events today for our Spring Week of Action. I definitely suggest checking them out if you can. It should be really interesting. We have another presentation by a student, and then also a screening of the movie Roxy, which is super cute and also very inspiring. And then we will also be doing an explainer next week on the new Title IX rulings. So keep an eye in your inbox for information on that. Otherwise, I don't see any other questions. So I just wanted to thank Roxy again. That was an incredible presentation, such an important topic, and I am so proud to have you on our team. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for tuning in.